In the headlines, Dominica works towards reducing challenges to air access into the country. A $1 million payback for NCCU members for honoring their loan commitments as a credit union records exceptional performance in 2015, and the Blood Bank promotes voluntary donations as the world observes Blood Donor Day. I am Kenny Williams with the Channel 5 News. More when we return. Topping the news, Dominica steps up efforts to reduce air access challenges into the country. Andrea Louis has that story.
This as the country is hosting the first ever Caribbean Aviation Meetup at the Fort Young Hotel. Tourism Minister Senator Robert Tong told the opening ceremony that significant work had been done by the government to address challenges of air access into the country. However, more had to be done to ensure improved air transportation throughout the region.
The Ministry of Tourism and Urban Renewal is leading the charge to address this issue of access, particularly air access into Dominica. This continues to be a perplexing topic, but I'm hoping that after this session we will have a clear ways forward in terms of dealing with these issues. The government has taken a stake in the ownership of LIAT as one initiative. We continue to implement other strategies of partnerships to diversify the options available to our locals, students, visitors, whether coming for business or for leisure. So while we have made progress, we recognize the need to be involved in the continuous improvement cycle. So we have arrived at a new beginning, a beginning of forging a solid movement out of challenges and opportunities to improve air transportation in the region that will benefit our economies and communities.
The senator also informed the gathering that a loan facility to upgrade existing hotels should come into effect before the end of the year. The minister says an increase in room availability and an improvement in air access to the country will significantly boost Dominica's tourism industry.
We are all aware of the fact that room stock in Dominica will be significantly increased in the next coming years. The government is also committed to assisting the existing hotel rooms. The CBI program basically allows us to put together well-known and well-branded hotels, but in addition to that, those hotels who are in Dominica also need some support, so the government will also be providing a loan facility through the aid bank, which will allow existing hotels to improve on their room stock or also to increase on the number of rooms. We're hoping that that will be in place after the budget.
This first ever Caribbean Aviation Meetup will run until Thursday and will allow for dialogue among aviation professionals from around the world on how to improve traveling by air in the Caribbean region. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
Meantime, suggestions coming in on how Dominica can improve air access. This as a Barbadian-based columnist and businessman spoke on the opening ceremony of the Caribbean Aviation Meetup on Tuesday.
When the chairman of Bombardier, the Canadian aircraft manufacturer, announced recently that the deal they had with Delta to supply 75 CS-100s and CS-300s to Delta with an option for another 50, he called the deal groundbreaking. Of course it was for Bombardier, but it may also be groundbreaking for a number of the Caribbean territories. It's a brand new plane, has a number of advantages, 20% fuel, less burn, has things like increased storage, bigger windows, very quiet. But the most important thing that may affect many people in this room directly, it can land and it can take off on a 4,000 feet runway. And it's the only plane of its type that can do that. So if I understand correctly, Douglas Charles has a runway length of 5,700 and a bit.
Loveridge says the seating capacity of the new aircraft can play a role in increasing the number of tourists coming into Dominica.
And the beauty about the plane, they're configured to seat one or two class configurations, economy and business class, for 100 to 145 people. So that means the risk is less. If you're a destination like Dominica, you can look at it and say, right, is 100 people a realistic objective? Can I fill 50 hotel rooms from one flight, or even 30 or 25? And I believe it is, with the new lodging coming on stream and these aircraft set to go into service next year. I think that should be on your list to seriously look at, whether you can entice at least one Delta flight directly through here.
Loveridge says one of the main benefits of the new aircraft is the distance it is able to travel.
The second most important thing about the aircraft is the distance it can fly. It can fly 3,300 nautical miles. So you're talking not just about the eastern seaboard or about Florida. You're talking about Winnipeg, Minneapolis, Denver, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, all non-stop from there to here, right? Or in fact, virtually anywhere in the Caribbean. So that, again, would be one area I would be looking at if I'm operating from a destination with a smaller runway and not necessarily looking for huge capacity.
An outreach session with 20 young people of the Dominica State College is planned for later this week to educate Dominica youth on job opportunities within the aviation industry. In other top stories, the performance of the National Cooperative Credit Union for January to December 2015 is being described by CEO Aylmer Irish as remarkable. Over the last year, NCCU membership grew by 1,341. Assets increased by $32.4 million to $471.2 million. Liabilities also grew by $24 million, and members also increased savings and deposits.
The Society's interest and investment income was $31.3 million as compared to $29.9 million in 2014. Other income was $1.19 million. The surplus before appropriation was $6.06 million as compared to $22.6 million in 2014. We are reporting a net surplus of $4.7 million in 2015 compared to $2.1 in 2014.
There are a number of other measures being taken by the NCCU in its quest to improve members' lives and communities.
In recent weeks, we have entered into a strategic alliance with the Central Cooperative Credit Union to install an ATM at its Portsmouth branch, which will provide access to all our members and will permit Central Cooperative Credit Union members to use our ATM network, which will increase to 10 units very shortly. We are pursuing the transfer of assets and liabilities of the Southeastern Cooperative Credit Unions to the NCCU, increasing the number of branches to 7. To our members, we urge you to remain bound to our core beliefs of pooling and sharing resources. Let us remember that we are uniting and supporting our credit union for our collective good.
The NCCU currently has over 41,000 members. In related news, members of the National Cooperative Credit Union, NCCU, should have some additional cash in their pockets by Wednesday. That's due to a decision taken by the NCCU board to share with members a portion of its $6 million surplus realized for the financial year 2015. The largest credit union on the island held a news conference Tuesday to make the announcement.
This is a major milestone for any indigenous financial institution. We strongly believe, as a cooperative, we should share with our family. Therefore, NCCU has decided to give back $1 million as interest rebate in cash to its members. This $1 million will be shared among all members who have paid interest on their loans in 2015 based on interest paid for that period. The sum that each member receives will be unencumbered. Therefore, members will be free to spend these funds as they wish. I want to appeal to all members and prospective members that we can only continue to return cash to you if you continue to make NCCU your financial institution of choice.
The NCCU has taken this decision at a time when some banks here are charging customers fees on their savings. The NCCU president believes such policies are repressive and against the philosophy of banking. Ducre says as long as he is president of the NCCU, this poverty-driven policy will never be applied to NCCU members. NCCU holds its 6th annual general meeting on the 26th of June in Casabruce. The credit union there is the latest to join the NCCU family. And a fresh emphasis on this International Blood Donor Day on getting those who donate blood to do so voluntarily. Currently, donors give blood when a request is made, particularly in cases where a relative is in need of a transfusion, but those working at the blood bank at Princess Margaret Hospital want to improve on that practice. The acting director of the blood bank says there is always a need for blood, and the only way to maintain an adequate supply is through regular and voluntary donation.
There are quite a few donors we can always call when there is a need. And in the future, we want to organize a system where people can get registered, that we can always call on them when there is a need.
So would you say you're always operating below what you need?
No, our supply is kind of adequate unless there is every now and then situations arise where there is an increased demand. So in situations like that, the response is usually good.
Sylvester Mark started donating blood when his sister got sick in 1973, and he has not stopped since.
Sometime in the 1970s, a team from the lab came to Social Security, to take blood and to do some screening process. And then there was a white lady with them. So after she did my test, she told me she would not take blood from me. Afterwards, they called me and told me I have a very rare blood group, which is O negative. This is very rare amongst the black race. So they said they would be treating me with kid gloves. I would be somebody special, So after that, sometimes twice a year, 3 times a year, they would call me to give blood, but mostly to children who were born jaundiced, but a few adults, but mostly children. So there are a lot of children in Dominica who are my blood brothers and blood sisters, but they do not know me.
So what are the benefits of that to you, though, doing this over the years? Are there health benefits to you?
Well, I understand that it renews your blood cells. You get new blood cells and so on. It regenerates new blood cells, yeah.
Mark says he donates blood every 3 months. After December 2016, he will no longer be required to do so. He will be 66. He says if it were possible to continue donating, he would gladly do so. World Blood Donor Day this year is observed under the theme, Blood Connects Us All. Coming up, one Dominican receives training in best practices in intellectual property rights. Thanks for staying with us. An official with the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology says the region's alert system, while efficient, leaves room for improvement. An alert system is the process whereby information and advice is shared between hazard monitoring and forecasting agencies and people who may suffer loss or damage as a result of the hazardous event. Chief of Applied Meteorology and Hydrology at the CIMH says, so far the alert systems in the Caribbean are playing their role in informing people of the impact of weather systems.
Our alerting system regarding weather systems, it's not bad at all, I think in the region we got to trust our alerting systems more. I mean, they can be better, we're improving on them. In some countries, if a river is reached a level that's higher than normal, or sometimes an alarm or trigger goes off, alerting relevant persons who can then spread the alarm regarding flood, and you might be able to move quickly or evacuate quickly. The meteorologists and the hydrologists in the case of river flow, and those who manage water resources, they're having more and more support with time.
Trotman believes that through advancements in technology, early warning systems can be further enhanced to reflect predictions along extended timescales.
What we do a lot in the Caribbean, we talk a lot 2 timescales when it comes to this science, which is weather, a few days, and climate change, which talks about 2050, 2100. There's a space in there for saying something about what's happening for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months. And we're continuing to work towards, as the science improves, of course. Certainly there's room for information for 3 to 6 months in advance. What it does, it triggers a different action. Right? What you're going to do when you hear about the likelihood of something 3 to 6 months in advance, you're not going to make the same response that if you hear it's 2 days in advance. But they should complement each other into one system.
From 2012, the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, CARICOF, has been ensuring that national meteorological services around the region have meteorologists and weather forecasters trained on the appropriate tools and issues regarding climate and seasonal forecasting. One expert in ocean research and development has warned Dominica to be mindful of the threat posed by hazardous material after a weather disaster. Retired professor of the University of the Virgin Islands, Roy Watlington, was one of the expert presenters on the topic Natural Hazard Vulnerability at a recent disaster management forum here. He is also a member of the Caribbean Integrated Coastal Ocean Observing System.
You know the destructiveness of severe storms. You really do know. The winds and the low pressure damage where people live, the infrastructure, agriculture, water quality, everything. You get the storm surge, which intrudes inland, flooding, creating beach erosion, destroying seagrasses, destroying coral reefs. And then you have infrastructure also caused by storm surge. You have inland flooding from the rain that occurs inland. And then you have hazmat contamination. And by contamination, I mean the release of hazardous materials, whether they be biological or chemical, sewage or medical waste, when the storm disturbs septic systems or when salt water from the sea penetrates into your groundwater and contaminates that as well. That takes the longest time to recover.
Watlington says during those circumstances, the delay in restoring clean pipe-borne water and clearing pollution can lead to contagious diseases.
Creation of puddles, pools, and the presence of dead material, plants and animals dead, create unhygienic circumstances that could lead to infectious diseases. In 1867, that hurricane, an earthquake and tsunami that I mentioned, the loss of life from the actual earthquake and tsunami was only 30 people. But many, many people died in the months afterwards because of yellow fever.
He says the island's potential for experiencing natural disasters is high because of its geographical location. Factors such as Dominica being in the path of waves coming off Africa's coast and its land moisture can feed the development of tropical storms.
If you're less than 4 degrees north or south of the equator, the Earth's rotation does not contribute to the spin necessary to generate a tropical storm. Well, at your latitude, you have, of course, ample distance from the equator, and so that factor you're not protected by that factor. In fact, tropical storms like this latitude. You want to be far enough from a major continental system where aspects that could weaken a storm are maximized, such as having too much dry air or too much wind shear. You've heard of wind shear. Wind shear is a good thing. You know, when you hear it say the wind shear is increasing, don't despair. That's good. Wind shear tends to destroy storms, not to enhance them. And so by being far enough away from the North and the South American continent, some of the wind shear factors that might have discouraged the growth of your storm are not present.
The acting chief librarian at the National Documentation Center, Bernanda Reynolds, is among regional counterparts in the United States participating in a U.S. Department of State International Visitor Leadership Program, IVLP. The 21-day program is designed to enhance participants' knowledge and understanding of policies, best practices, and challenges for improving awareness and protection of intellectual property rights, IPR. Through meetings and discussions with public and private sector professionals in the United States, participants will explore a broad range of IPR issues, including copyrights, patents, and trademarks. In addition, they will examine the implementation and enforcement of IPR legislation. The program for librarians and archivists ends on the 1st of July. That's news. One Dominican woman to play in the Under-20 Women's Tournament in Trinidad and Tobago. That and more in your sports highlights next. We bowl off with cricket. West Indies captured their second win in the Tri-Nation Series when they defeated Australia by 4 wickets on Monday. Australia took first knock and reached 265 for 7 in 50 overs. Usman Khawaja scored 2 runs short of a century, Stephen Smith 74 and George Bailey 55. Kieron Pollard picked up 2 for 32, Jason Holder 2 for 44 and Carlos Brathwaite 2 for 60. Set 266 for the win, West Indies equaled that target with 4 wickets to spare in 45.4 overs. Marlon Samuels scored 92, Johnson Charles 48 and Darren Bravo 39. Adam Zampa took 2 for 60 and Nathan Coulter-Nile 2 for 67 for Australia. Meantime, head coach of the West Indies team, Phil Simmons, says the win against Australia was a confidence booster for the team.
The feeling's always been good. I think we realized that we didn't bat properly against them the last time, so we had to bat properly this time. So I think in that way we'll be happy with ourselves because the batting came to the party today, and that's what's been lacking for us. So it's a good feeling to know that you beat Australia, who are world champions and #1 team in the world. So it means that we're moving in the right direction.
He says the top order executed their role well, which contributed to the team's win.
The pressure has been put on the top 4 to make sure that they set up whatever we have to do at the bottom. We know how devastating we can be at the end of an innings with the players we have. So the top 4 has been asked to put their dancing shoes on and make sure that we're in a position that the latter part of the batting can do what they do, and they've done that today and they've seen us through.
West Indies is scheduled to play South Africa in a day-night match on Wednesday in St. Kitts. The game is carded for 1 p.m. local time. Still in cricket, Daspa Sports Club and Cornells have booked spots in the final of the Big Edge Gifford Tues Softball Cricket Championship when they recorded wins in their respective semi-final rounds recently. In one of the matches, Daspa defeated Pitted Savan Ericans by 115 runs. Daspa batted first and scored 153 for 5. Clem Nicholas 60, Kozia Charles 31 and Kazimi Benjamin 21. Erwin Dupois took 2 for 15 and Mickey Moise took 2 for 17. Ericans were bowled out cheaply for 38. Erwin Dupois scored 12. Kevin Albert and Kozia Charles went through the Ericans batting lineup, taking 4 for 13 and 3 for 9 respectively. Meantime, in the other match, Cornells bested Stuco Construction Hammers by 7 wickets. Hammers took first knock and scored 192 for 8. Paul Joseph made an impressive 94, while Alison Althred assisted with 32. Cuthbert Maroney and Afferton Debois took 2 wickets each. Cornells in reply scored 194 for 7. Cuthbert Maroney 47, Kamal Hamilton 38 and Andy Matthew 36. Kyle James took 2 for 34. Basketball action moves to Massac and Lindo Park on Wednesday with 4 scheduled games. At Massac, Justina Charles Thunderers and United Insurance Sharks will do battle at 7, to be followed by Elijah Law Chambers Thunderers versus Jays Limited Sonics at 9. Then over at Lindo Park, it will be Digital Cloud versus Elvis Welding Services Hornets, going head-to-head at 7. At 9, Police Sports Club will be looking to add another win to their tally when they come up against Tigers. Still in sports, one Dominican woman will get a chance to showcase her cricket skills at the upcoming Invitational Under-20 Women's Tournament in Trinidad and Tobago. Ronette Sanford is part of a 14-woman squad, including Holly Charles, Taylor Dixon, Teresa Thomas, Akita Alexander, Cassie Williams, Jeffinia Joseph, Crystal John, Kimon Homer, Shanizia Daniel, Samantha Kane, Kian Joseph, Nerissa Crafton, Aliyah Alfred, and Ronette Sanford. The team will be managed by Lydia Edgar and coached by Samantha Lynch. The competition runs from June 21 to 26. In more sports division games, the Pioneer Prep, Montjean, Tetmon, Grand Bay, Siniku, W.S. Stevens, Paybush, and Roosevelt Douglas Primary Schools will move to the next round of the 2016 Sports Division Swiss Embassy Primary Schools Netball Competition. The mentioned schools have won matches in their respective zones and will move on to the subsequent round of the competition. The games are carded for Wednesday at 3 and Thursday at 2:30 at Portsmouth and the Dominica Grammar School Hearts Court. That's all the sports for now. I am Kenny Williams. Join us again next time. General stable weather with brief showers expected over the next 24 to 48 hours. Your weather report is next.
Good evening, Dominica, and welcome to tonight's weather broadcast. I'm your presenter, Marshall Alexander. We begin by taking a look at earlier infrared satellite imagery, what it showed. A few patches of low-level clouds which continue to move across the area during today. Now taking a look at earlier visible satellite imagery, and what it showed. Some low-level clouds which moved across the island, and this resulted in partly cloudy skies and also hazy conditions across Dominica during today. Now taking a look at earlier radar imagery and what it indicated. A few brief scattered showers which moved across the east coast of Dominica during the afternoon. Now tonight's weather is expected to be fair to partly cloudy and hazy with a few brief isolated showers, and these conditions are expected to continue into tomorrow. Sea conditions are expected to be slight to moderate in open water with waves peaking near 5 feet. For the next 3 days, a ridge of high pressure will continue to dominate conditions across the region, and this is expected to result in fair to partly cloudy skies and also hazy conditions throughout the next 3 days. These conditions are expected throughout most of the Caribbean tomorrow. Our international cities forecast: partly cloudy skies can be expected in New York and Caracas, some thunderstorm activity expected in Miami and London, clear skies expected in Beijing, with some pretty warm temperatures expected there. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 5:34 a.m. and sunset will be at 6:47 p.m. For more information, you can call the weather hotline at 447-5555 or visit our website at weather.gov.dm. Thanks for viewing. Have a good night.
To end the news, the headlines again. Dominica works towards reducing challenges to air access into the country. A $1 million payback for NCCU members for honoring their loan commitments as the credit union records exceptional performance in 2015, and the Blood Bank promotes voluntary donations as the world observes Blood Donor Day. Feel free to contact us at news@mapping2k4.com. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Kenny Williams. To our viewers around the world, thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.